Hello and welcome to another exciting Blender tutorial. Today we're going to be making a robot head using grease pencil. What? Okay, so today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a cool trick for using grease pencil to kind of lay out topology. So what do I mean by that? What is that? We just threw around some words. Topology is it's how polygons are laid out across a surface. That's the gist, right? And sometimes, if you're trying to model something out of the default cube, you can get in this situation. We've got faces, and your mesh is kind of laid out in ways that you can't get it to move in the way you want to move. And so you're trying to figure out how to cut lines and cut holes through things, and you got this grid, and nothing's quite working. So sometimes it's actually really helpful to start off by laying out a topology that will fit the flow of your design. So grease pencil actually opens up some really cool ways of doing that. And I thought it'd be great to just take the chance to walk you through it, and let's do a demonstration. I'm gonna make a head. So like a robot head, kind of a humanoid head. I'll go for something kind of like a General Grievous kind of style. So I'm just gonna delete the default cube, and I'm gonna start off by going Shift A, and we're creating a UV sphere, okay? And I'm gonna scale it on the Z a little bit. And then I'll Shift D, duplicate scale Z, and bring this one up and bring this one back like so. All right. And just kind of play around with this a little bit. All I'm doing, okay, is I'm roughing out kind of the shape, the overall shape, right? So I'm thinking something like this. We've got like a brain cavity thing out the back. When you're doing a model, especially if it's complex, often what's really helpful is to start out by blocking the shapes out, and just thinking about the basic form of how it's going to all fit together, all right? So I think that's going to serve me pretty well. Now, this isn't actually going to be our mesh, right? But this is going to be the foundation for it. It'll be like a curved neck thing come out the back here. So I'll just go ahead and I'll make something for that. Bring this down, grab this out. Oh, and if we're doing modeling, we got to switch to the best viewport view for modeling, which is arguably this one, because it looks like we're using ZBrush, and that's just got a cool aesthetic, doesn't it? All right, so grease pencil is really cool. It's got some good effects, good use cases. There's a lot of cool use cases. I mean, most of it's for 2D stuff, but what we can actually do is if we hit Shift A, we're going to come down to grease pencil, and we're just going to create a blank grease pencil layer or grease pencil object. You have to have the object first. And we get some cool options here. And let's see, I'm going to go to here where it says layers underneath the grease pencil tab. I'm going to click new layer, and it just creates this new layer folder called GP_layer. And there's a lot of other things here, controls and whatnot. We don't need to worry about any of that at the moment. Now I'm going to switch over from object mode, we're going to switch to draw mode. And this mode is only available when you have a grease pencil object selected. And now suddenly we're in grease pencil mode. I'm going to come over here, right here where it says origin. This is for stroke placement. And we want to switch this to surface. And make sure your offset, we could put our offset maybe just like, I don't know, 0.01. This will be basically offset our stroke from whatever surface is, whatever 3D surface is behind the cursor. So right now, if I was to draw here, my drawing is going to be on this surface, will be off it just a little bit. So you can see there, that's the 0.01. I might drop that down, 0.001. See how that looks. Yeah, that's better. I just want it to sit right on the surface, but not intersect, so it's a little easier to see. What's cool is though, I can draw, right? And you can see I can draw all the way over here, and it has stayed on this sphere and this sphere. If I come down here, draw, you can see that it's actually just mapping it to whatever geometry is beneath me, which is really cool. So I'll just clear that out, create a new layer. All right, so what we can do is I'm only going to worry about one side of this face because I'm going to use the mirror modifier to duplicate it out. But what I can do is I can start to kind of map out how do I want this thing to look. Now I'm thinking what I want to do is let's see. I'm just going to draw. I may have to switch to my stylus if this gets a little too hard with the mouse, but I'm going to just do kind of like a rough layer where I am drawing out just some basic ideas for how I want this head to look. I'm just kind of creating some shapes. This is sort of like concept design, right? But you're doing your concept design in 3D space. I have like a eye cavity somewhere right here. You could also use things like the circle tool. So I can draw a circle. Hold down Shift, it'll lock it to like a perfect circle. And then you have to hit return. And you can see it also maps that to the surface. There might even be, is there a mirror modifier? Yeah, there is. Y-axis, there we go. So we actually use a mirror modifier within Grease Pencil itself to be able to modify this and look at it as a mirrored shape, which is pretty cool. All right, I like that. Now, okay, so I've got this sort of sketch layer, right? Now I'm going to make a new layer. That's right. So we click here to create a new material. This will automatically apply material to what we've got. This is a special Grease Pencil material, all right? And now what I can do is I can create a new one, and I'll make this new one a different color. Like I might go for like a bright blue so it's really clear. So I've got my new layer that I've created, and I've created this new material, and I've just set it to blue. And because I've got this one selected, now when I draw, it's going to be using this material. So whatever material you've got selected is the one, sort of like that's your paintbrush, right? Now what I can do is I can think about how do I want the geometry, right, to actually flow for this model. So what I'll do first is I'll trace over kind of the outline of this shape, because I want that to be the base layer, right? So I'm going to just kind of roughly trace over what I've got. And actually, I might even turn on. So I'm going to turn on Active Smooth. Or do I want that in? Yeah, no, Active Smooth. Let's bring this up to like 0.7. Is that going to do it for me? Maybe a bit more. It's just going to help like smooth things out. We can also go for stabilize the stroke. And what this does is basically it like allows my mouse to lead the stroke before it draws it. And it's a way of getting a really smooth, clean line, especially if you're using like a mouse. So I'll grab this and we'll just come up here. Now, so why am I doing this? I should probably explain. My plan, like what I'm thinking in my head, is I'm going to be converting these Grease Pencil lines to mesh. And I want these lines to be the foundation of my mesh, right? And I want this to guide how the polygons are shaped, which will make more sense in a second when I actually start to draw this out as a bit more of a mesh. But for now, what we're doing is we're just mapping out these shapes. A good topology, again, so for something like this, it doesn't matter as much because we're not deforming this, right? We're not making this to like if you had a goopy kind of fleshy creature, right? And it was going to be bending and moving all over the place. You want to have really clean topology. And what I mean by that is like you have polygons that flow in the shape of the surface of your object, right? And that really helps the deformations to look really clean when it's moving around and bouncing and doing stuff. When you're doing hard surface like this, where we're having a robot, right? We don't need to have that kind of topology is not as important, right? Because we're not going to be deforming the surface. However, if we have topology that flows in the same sort of flow of the surface that we want for the shape of the object, it means that we don't need as much geometry. So if you're doing something like working in games, for example, then it's really helpful because you can really define the shape of your object without having to have tons and tons of polygons to do it. I think I'll draw another circle around the eye like this. Now we're not like drawing, like perfect geometry. We're not going to be drawing like all the all the geometry itself. This is more of like a guide to help us begin to flow when we actually switch over to polygons. This, now it does require a little bit of like knowledge of topology and polygon flow to be able to kind of know, all right, let's try this, let's make this go here. But it also, if you get the idea of like how to use this as a tool, then, you can experiment and try different things with the concept. All right, now let's start switching this over now. Let's start turning this into actual geometry. Well, what's cool about Grease Pencil is that it's actually, all these have vertices, right? So what we could probably do is let's smooth this up a little bit. So let's say, let's see, simplify. I'm going to go adaptive and turn my factor up. And this will just simplify things out a bit, so there's not as many points. Now what I can do is I can take this Grease Pencil and duplicate this whole object. Oh, sorry, I need to get out of, go back into object. Take this Grease Pencil, duplicate it, just so I've got one that I can use. I'll create another collection, and I'll call this my work in progress, and I'll drag that first one into there and just turn it off so it disappears. I'll come into this Grease Pencil, I'll go to this first layer, we just kind of rough things out, and I'll delete that. So we just have our clean layer, which isn't super clean, but it's still easier to work with. And then what we can do is we can take this and we can convert it. So I can go F3, convert to, I'll go polygon curve. So now we have this converted as a curve. So it's transformed this into a polygon curve object. Now what I can do, reconvert, let's see, does it give us, yeah, convert to mesh. Just a two-step conversion there. Now we've got mesh. Go to vertex mode. And now I've got this kind of like rough guide that's sort of laid out, right? So now I can, for example, I can take this ring here and I can say, all right, I'm also going to turn on snapping. So I'm going to turn, let's see, face snapping. Now I'll hit E to extrude for this eye, bring it out. And we're going to notice little problems like this, right? Because of the way we've done this, but that's all right. I'll go ahead and clean this up by grabbing these 4 vertices and hitting F to fill. And I'll grab this outer ring and I'll do one more, E scale. So what's happening is as I click a vertex, because I've got snapping turned on, it's automatically going to snap onto the surface of the sphere, which will give me a little bit of that roundness. Let me go into transparent mode as well so we can start to see everything together. I'm going to bring these guys up here, like this, like that. You take this group here, and I'll just delete this vertex right here, and I'll take this one and I'm going to snap it to this point. So I'm going to turn on vertex snapping. Just grab there, and then I'll box select those 2 and hit M to merge by distance, and then I'll make these guys unified. Now I've got this whole chain here that I can use. Now, one really handy tip, if you come over to File, up to Edit and Preferences. So anyways, come to Add-ons and come right down. Yeah, this is Mesh F2. So just turn on Mesh F2. And this will give you just a little bit more kind of modeling features. So right now I've got these 3 vertexes, right, that make a little section. If I grab this one right here and hit F, with the F2 modifier turned on, what it will do is it will turn snapping off. It will basically create this full polygon for me, which is just really, really handy. I can switch back to face snapping, turn this on, and hit F, oops, didn't want that one, F. And there we go. We've brought this whole group down there. So now we got this nice flow that goes up to this, that then goes into the eye, which makes sense. Now let's see. Let's sculpt this one out. So I want to take this and I'm going to line it up with this section here. In fact, I might just turn vertex snapping on again. Grab this vertex and snap it to there. Go back to face snapping. Grab this one and bring it right up here. And then we can do the same thing where we select these guys, and actually I can delete that vertex there. Select those guys, M, merge by distance. Then I can do the same thing. So I can hit F, boom, boom. Now we've got this line here as a reminder for us that we're going to have some geometry coming down through here. So I might just set those guys up there. In fact, I might even go to vertex snapping, grab that one so those guys are locked in, and let's merge by distance. But I will delete this vertex down here. And we can hide the grease pencil as well. We don't need to be seeing that all the time, although it is helpful, actually. I'm finding it helpful seeing. So let's hit F. I might just double tap G to slide these guys up here. And then I'm going to select these four and hit F to fill, just to kind of close that out. Now this brings us not all the way down to our bottom chin line area. So I might take these guys and hit E to extrude and grab them with snapping turned on there. So you can see how these things are kind of working together, right? Like we get the sphere, right? This rough sphere that's giving us this curvature that we're able to like snap things to the surface of, which is really helpful. But then we've got the grease pencil, which then helps us figure out how do we need these polygons to flow? How is this going to work? So both of them together becomes really helpful. Let's see, this is all connected. So what we can do is we can actually go select this edge. I'm just selecting them individually just to make sure I've got an even count. There we go. This one I feel like I could subdivide. So F3 subdivide, and that will put a vertex right in the middle of those guys. So let's do this again. Selecting that. Those line up pretty well. That lines up pretty well. That lines up pretty well. This one and this one, we're starting to get a little stretched. I might just stop with that. So I'll go F3 and bridge. Is it edge loops? Yeah, bridge edge loops. There you go. And that will bridge all of those together. Let's select this loop here. And let's go grid fill. And increase my span to 4. That looks pretty good. Check simple. You can't see this, can you? Because my head's in the way. So I've just got the grid fill controls there. And then what I can do is I can come to vertex mode. I can grab this, and I can make sure I'm set to face snapping. And I can just line these dudes up just like so with that group. And I'll just fudge this a little bit. Let this be the part that comes down for that. 11 times that's a good question. Would it be easier and faster to do this in sculpt mode? Yeah, technically. Well, it's a different way of doing it. This part would be pretty fast, like, shaping it out, but you still have to have a base mesh. And that's kind of what we're doing, is we're creating a base mesh. So we created a design, a quick sketch, which sometimes a sketch, drawing it, it's quicker to come up with a design than it is to sculpt sometimes. So you could do your drawing to come up with the design, then you go in and sculpt those things. But then you still need to come in and retopologize, especially if you're doing an organic thing. So it's sort of kind of, in a way, we're cutting out a step by not sculpting. But it really just kind of all depends on your workflow and how you think best in 3D. Let's go ahead and add a mirror modifier to this guy. There it is. Along the Y. I want these guys to be on the right spot along the x-axis. So I want to make sure they're all also around the Y. Let's zero them out on the Y. So take each of these and just hit 0. This will put them right at the center of my scene. And then the mirror modifier will do the rest for me. All of those line up. That's all good. This is all sorted. Great. All right, let me turn off my, let's put the spheres in the work in progress collection. And these cubes, not sure. We don't really need those at the moment. All right, so now we got this crazy mesh thing, right? I will add in another loop cut here, like so, around the eye. And looks pretty good. All right, so now what we can do is, we had that original design, right, where we came up with the kind of the flow of things. I could bring that grease pencil object back into my scene now. I can hide. Actually, we can bring back the original one, like so we can see it. And now we can kind of use that to inform how we're going to sort of finish out like the actual sculpting section of extruding stuff and pushing things around. So we've got this nice, all right, so now I'll switch to face mode. And I'll select all these cats. That, and I'm going to hit E to extrude, and grab on the X and bring it back. Oops, do we have something else selected? No. I'm going to take the edge loop here around the eye, and I'll hit E to extrude. And I wonder if I switched to, X. That in, maybe scale it a bit. E again, scale that down. E, grab X, bring it forward. Might scale it on the X 0 to flatten that thing out. And then I will F3 grid fill. Grid fill didn't work. Why not? That's weird. Do we have merge by distance? No. F3 grid fill. Not enough. Is it just because they're not even, maybe? I mean, if I make one loop cut, is that going to make the difference? Yep. Now you can see, like, because we've got this design, right, and we followed a flow with the design, we're able to do things like come in here, right, and inset, for example, and then E, and grab X and bring it in a bit. We're kind of sculpting with the, with the actual shape. So if I add in a subdivision surface modifier, so to 2, I'll right click shade smooth. We've got a few weird things going on, so we need to, I think we just shift in. Does that recalculate normals? Yeah, cool. Shift in is the shortcut for recalculating normals. Might add in an extra edge loop just to tighten this up. Well, I hide the grease pencil layer. You can see what this thing's starting to look like. Now I can grab this, and I'll hit E to extrude, grab X, bring it back down a bit. I'll turn on proportional editing. Go back to face mode. Let's see what we can get here. Let's select these guys, like so. Let's hit E to extrude, grab X, turn off portion, grab X, bring that forward. Grab these two guys, bring them down a bit. Double tapping G is really, really helpful for shaping out things because you're just sliding vertexes around. That's what I want. Now I'm just kind of, riffing on the design, just being a bit creative, having fun. Turn on proportional editing. Switch over to vertex mode. Oh, except for my snapping, I don't need to have snapping on. Turn to vertex mode here. Now what I can do is I can use these to just kind of sculpt out the shape a little bit. But anyways, you can see by drawing out that flow right at the start meant that we could then, as we begin to model this thing, we're actually beginning creating shape a lot easier than if we had just started like as a box model. Like we've been going for an hour and 20 and made some very solid progress in that time. So it's a really effective way, I think, to model out interesting shapes, to come up with designs, and to experiment with things like the flow of polygons. Do some tiny little details. That. Some random cool stuff. Using I to inset, and then E to extrude. Back sphere, scale it down so it's smaller than all my other stuff. And shade smooth. Come over to the side, switch open my shader editor. Turn on my render view, ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections. Take my world, I'll just leave it. I'll go to my lights, create a sun lamp. Shift D, rotate it around on the, I'll switch to global, rotate on the Z, bring it around the other side. And then we're going to come here and we'll create a new material. I'm using Control Plus to expand my selection. And I am just selecting these interior bits. And I'll select a new material and I'll assign. And then I will select invert selection, create a new material, click assign. Okay. So if I select, but that's the acutal. So these are two different materials. And then I'll also grab this interior section of the eye right here. Create a third material, new, assign. I'm going to go ahead and just assign an emission shader to the eye, make it red because it's a robot. Turn it up. Now for this other material, let's actually work on this one first. I'm going to bring my roughness down so it's really metallic. I'll bring my metallic all the way up as well. And I'll bring my base color down, something like that. And I'll grab my other material. And this one I might make like a, maybe I want a similar material on all these guys actually. I could just make this one even darker. That could be cool. It's just nice having a breakup, you know, where it's slightly different on each side. You can see that it's relatively clean. Like it's kind of a smooth flow. You can see that around the eyes, we've got this circular flow of geometry up this sort of nozzle section. It actually flows in those shapes. So this is a lot better than having like a really dense flat grid, that just like some of the squares are up and some are down, and you've tried to do that to get these curves and you just end up with like so much mesh. But something like this really works, especially for like a game asset where you want to have a lower polygon count and you're able to make that work with less. That's a really key skill to begin to do. And it's also really tough. You can have a loose idea in your head, but when you're trying to flesh out a design, sometimes you really do you need to start with big picture things and kind of work in smaller and smaller details. And working in this method kind of helps you do that because you're able to draw out sketching lines that kind of give you a sense of the shape of your object and where you want to take it. And then what you can do is you can begin to push it in a certain direction. Hope you enjoyed this video today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as well. So as usual, this began as a live stream, so about an hour and a half long live stream. And what I do is I take these down and I edit them into a short tutorial that I then post up to about 20 to 30 minutes long. So if you'd like to watch this uncut full hour and a half version, you can find it on Patreon, or you can join on YouTube at the All Access Pass level. You can get access to it there as well. So if you'd like extra content, that's where you can find it. You can also get this project file if you join this month or when this launches, and you'll be able to get a hold of this. Every month I cycle new project files on Patreon. So the longer you're a member there at the second tier, the more project files you're going to get. So if the month that I made this is now long in the past, I do put these out occasionally on Gumroad and on the Blender Market as well. So you can get all of them that way if you don't want to do Patreon. So anyways, thank you so much for watching today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you had a lot of fun. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Give me a follow if you're over on Twitch. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube as well. Consider joining the Discord. We've got a great community there. And we're doing a challenge this month on the Discord based on the Netflix series Love, Death, and Robots. So that's where this was coming from today. So if you'd like to participate in that, do that at the end of the month. I'll do a stream highlighting some of the best work voted on by the community. So thanks so much. I will catch you in the next one. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll see you later. Thanks. Bye.